Gluing up the A-frames is pretty easy, actually. All I did was put a couple of shims here between these dogs. You know, I had my dominoes in here. Gave this a few love taps to push it into the wedge. This tightened right up. Threw a couple clamps on it to keep it flat, and it's nice. Very nice. Took just about 5 minutes each to get them into that position right there. Nice tight joint. Had good glue squeeze out. I don't know what the bottom looks like yet, but I'll clean that up tomorrow. Right after my glue up, everything looks pretty good here, except I've got a couple of tiny gaps, and you can see what happens if I level it out on one side. It opens up here, and if I were to go from this side to the next, it hits. This side over here, this one's not too bad. Let me get this one out of the way. This one's pretty good, actually. No, not too bad. But anyway, I'm going to true them both up. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm just going to run a light little pass here on both of them. I still got my sled set up here at 6 degrees. So I'm going to do this real quick. Do the other one, and then I'll run it against the fence to get my top nice and flush as well. Probably took off about a 32nd of an inch total with both those passes. That's that evens them right up, and everything's flush. All right, for this operation, I am going to change blades. I've got my rip blade in here, and I want to set it to that same bevel. That's a nice match. I mean, this one back here that is flush all the way up. And this one is just a fraction off. That can be taken care of, no problem. So I've got to figure out my cut length here. Then I can put this sub-assembly together with some dominoes in here, and then figure out how I'm going to attach this to this. Alright, a couple things here. This looks good. so far. The one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to mess with that bevel on the bottom side because I like the fit. So I don't want to hand plane that edge. It's not going to improve the glue joint at all. It's nice and tight. So I'm going to leave that alone. But this edge with the X's on it, the bottom edge, which again no one will see, but I'm going to hand plane those saw marks off of there. And if that bevel gets just a little bit off from that hand planing, that's not going to be any big deal. So I'll hit those a couple of times. And the other thing is that these stretchers hang into the bowl area just a little bit. And if that were a problem, you could, after it's assembled, take a pattern, bearing bit and just follow this edge and route that little bit off to give you that clearance. For me, it's not a problem because my bowls taper, so I'm not concerned about that at all. Okay, I got my top cut to size, rounded over all four edges, all 8 edges, I guess. And now this is the point where you tell yourself you don't want to screw it up. I want to put some dominoes in here. I've already marked it where I want them to go. And I need to have some way to register the domino against this edge. This edge, I should say, or this side. So I put these cutoffs here. And I want to carefully lift this out of there. I've got the marks already transferred onto the leg portion of the project here. But now these are held in place, but I don't know if that's good enough. I'd like to get a better clamp on there, and I think I'm going to try this. Here's my mark here. Well, I still got my tri-square set up. No, that's not my mark. It's way back here. So let's get this in place. This will be in the middle, out of the way. And that'll hold that one now. There. Now I know those are not going to move. I can get these backed off a little bit. Okay, now I can get my marks back on here where they belong. This one's going to be tough. Now I can swing this. Now that I've got this to hold these in place, I should be okay. All right, I've got my setup here. I'm using the base registered against this fence, this cutoff, which also registered against that same face on the leg assembly. So the reason I want this to be so secure is because I'm going to be kind of pulling back and pushing down at the same time. And then I've got my cut set to 15 millimeters, and then I'll set it to 25 millimeters on the leg assembly so that I can use that longer domino on this. So I'll show you this one, and then I'll do it 3 more times on the bench, or the top, and then I'll show you how I'm going to cut those legs. Alright, my mark. Then I'm using this as to register the base against this face, which will give me the same reveal cut I had before. I got to change my depth of cut here. Alright. Time to see how we did here. Now, before I took this apart, or did this, I put a 1 here and a 1 here, so I know that this was oriented this way. Those two are started. And this one should go. There we go. All right. Put some glue and clamps on that. We're good to go.